No one wanted the job anymore. Not after 7 house helps, 4 child therapists, and even a distant cousin had all left within a month, defeated, overwhelmed, or in tears. The Nwoko family house, once full of laughter, had become a place of silence, shouting, and sharp broken edges. Chief Chuka Nwoko was a respected businessman in Enugu. People called him Odogwu in hushed admiration, but at home, he felt like anything but a strong man. After losing his wife, Obiajali, to a sudden car accident on her way to the market, he was left to raise their 3 children alone, 10-year-old Nena, 6-year-old Ekene, and 4-year-old Adaora. And none of them had healed, not even a little. Nena stopped speaking for weeks. Ekene threw tantrums that made the neighbors call the gate man in panic. And Adaora? She refused to sleep in her room and carried her late mother's wrapper like a second skin. Help came and left, each one faster than the last. One even left in the middle of the night with a note, "I cannot fight spirits." Then one Harmattan morning, while the compound still smelled of dry earth and mango leaves, someone knocked on the gate. She didn't come in a fancy car or wear designer clothes. She wore a long blue skirt, soft sandals, and carried only a small Ghana must-go bag. Her name was Ginika Eze. She was young. Too young, Chuka thought. Quiet, almost shy. She didn't offer a glowing CV. She didn't come with references or certificates. "Why are you here?" Chuka asked, trying not to sound hopeless. "I heard you were looking for someone," Ginika replied gently. "I don't promise miracles, but I can stay, if that's what they need." Chuka wanted to laugh. She had no idea what she was walking into, but something in her calm eyes made him pause. "Meet them first," he said. "Then we'll see." That afternoon was chaos, as usual. Akin poured paint on the living room wall. Nena refused to come downstairs. Adaora threw her food on the floor and yelled, "I want mummy!" Chuka rubbed his forehead. "I warned you," he muttered. But Ginika didn't flinch. She cleaned the floor without a word, picked up a picture book, and sat cross-legged on the carpet. She began reading aloud, not loudly, not trying to force attention, just reading. Akene stopped smashing toys and sat beside her slowly. Nena peeked from the top of the stairs, her eyes curious. And Adaora walked over, quietly tugged on Ginika's sleeve, and sat on her lap. Chuka stood frozen. Later that evening, as he handed her a glass of malt, he said, "They're difficult." "No," Ginika said, sipping slowly. "They're heartbroken." That night, Ginika didn't ask for a room. She said she would sleep in the sitting room so the children wouldn't wake up afraid. She spread a thin mat beside the sofa and tucked Adaora in beside her. For the first time in weeks, the house was quiet. Not empty, just still. From that first day, Ginika didn't come to fix them. She came to stay. She didn't try to be their mother. She didn't try to erase the pain. She just showed up. Day after day. Presence, patience, gentle strength. In the morning, she gave Chuka tea with ginger and said, "You must take care of yourself if you want to take care of them." In the afternoon, she made a kamu and a kara from scratch, saying, "Smells of home make children feel safe." At night, she sang old folk songs in a voice so soft it sounded like wind through palm trees. By the end of the week, Nena spoke for the first time. "I like her voice," she whispered. Ekina stopped throwing things. And Adaora? She finally slept in her own bed, but only if Ginika sat with her for 5 minutes before she slept. Chuka began to breathe again. Not deeply. Not freely. But at least he was breathing. He didn't understand how Ginika did it. But maybe that was the point. It wasn't about what she did. It was about how she stayed. By the second week, everything began to shift. But slowly, like the way Harmattan dust clears from rooftops after the first rain. Ginika didn't try to take control. She didn't rush to fix things. She just moved gently around the house like someone who had always been there. Not like a stranger or a guest, but like a thread sewing everything quietly back together. She learned each child like a language. Nena, the eldest, needed silence and space. Ginika didn't push her to talk. Instead, she left short notes for her on the study table. "You drew something beautiful yesterday. I hope you'll show me more." Sometimes Nena replied, "Just 1 sentence." Sometimes 2. "I like blue. Do you?" Ginika always answered. Ekeni was the wild one. He climbed furniture, banged pots, and once tried to ride the family dog like a horse. But Ginika didn't shout. She turned his energy into purpose. "You're strong," she said. "Strong people build things." So, Ekene became the official assistant chef. He stirred ogbono soup with all the seriousness in the world and proudly shouted, "Daddy, I made the soup." Chuka laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. Adaora was still Ginika's shadow. She followed her everywhere, into the kitchen, the garden, even the laundry room. One evening, Ginika found her folding baby socks and singing the lullaby Ginika had taught her. It wasn't perfect, but it was full of heart. That night, Ginika cried quietly into her pillow, not because she was sad, but because they were healing. One Saturday, the family tried something new. "Let's have a picnic in the backyard," Ginika suggested. "No TV, no phones, just sunshine, rice, and chin-chin." Chuka was hesitant. He hadn't touched the backyard since Obiageli's burial, but when he saw the children's faces, lit up with excitement, bouncing like balloons, he nodded. "Hey," he said quietly, "let's try." Ginika spread an old wrapper on the grass. The children carried their small plastic chairs. Ekene dropped his chin-chin twice. Nena brought a book. Adora wore a flower crown made of weeds. Chuka sat down slowly, unsure what to do with his hands. Then Ginika passed him a plate. Fried rice, grilled chicken, plantain, and he smiled. Ginika didn't say anything. She just sat beside him, watching the children play. It was the first time in over a year that the compound didn't feel heavy. "I forgot what this felt like," Chuka said finally. "What?" Ginika asked. "Peace." But healing isn't always easy, and not everyone understood it. Chuka's older sister, Auntie Ifeoma, came to visit one morning. She frowned when she saw Ginika serving tea. "This girl again?" she said, loud enough for Ginika to hear. "Is she the help or the madam of the house?" Ginika smiled and greeted her with respect. "Good morning, Ma." Ifeoma narrowed her eyes. "You're getting too comfortable. That's how these village girls enter and take over." Chuka wanted to speak, but Nena interrupted. "She's not from the village. She's from our hearts." Silence. Thick and sharp. Ifeoma blinked. "Excuse me?" Nena stood up, her voice firm. "She listens to us. She sees us. That's more than most people do." Ginika quietly took the children inside. Chuka turned to his sister. "She's not the help. She's part of us now." Ifeoma scoffed but didn't say another word. That evening, Ginika sat by the window, her eyes on the stars. "I'm sorry about today," Chuka said. "You don't have to apologize," Ginika replied. "It's not the first time I've been seen as small." "But you're not," he said. She turned to him slowly. Then maybe, someday, someone will see that fully. And something passed between them in the quiet. Not romance. Not yet. But a new kind of respect. A new kind of closeness. One built slowly, like trust, like home. The house began to breathe again. Mornings came with laughter and the smell of toasted bread. Adaora now called the kitchen our secret kingdom. Ekene spent his afternoons building castles from old cartons. And Nena? She wrote again. Short poems tucked into books, sometimes signed NN. She even let Ginika braid her hair once, something not even her late mother could do without protest. Chuka watched from the sidelines. Every evening, he came home to something different. Soft music playing, a new drawing on the fridge, Ginika sitting cross-legged, telling the children folk tales from her hometown in Suka. It felt good. Too good. And then the storm came. It started on a Tuesday. Ordinary at first. Ginika was walking home from the market with Adaora asleep on her back when she saw them, two men in dark jeans and black sunglasses standing by the gate. They didn't greet. They didn't smile. "Are you Ginika Eze?" one of them asked. "Yes," she replied slowly. "You've been served." He handed her an envelope. Court summons. Ginika's hands trembled as she opened it. She read it once, then again. Her chest tightened. Her estranged uncle, the same man who kicked her out at 19, was suing her for inheritance fraud, claiming she had stolen money meant for her late father's burial years ago. A complete lie, but dangerous. "I didn't take anything," she whispered to herself. But in Nigeria, truth doesn't always win first. That night, Ginika didn't eat. She tucked the children in with her usual calmness, then sat alone on the veranda, the letter on her lap. She hadn't told anyone about her past. Not the eviction. Not the nights she slept in churches. Not how she begged to work as a school cleaner just to finish her NCE. She never wanted pity, only purpose. Now it was all coming back. She didn't hear Chuka approach until he said, "You're shaking." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "I didn't do it, Chuka. I swear on everything I love." He sat beside her. "No questions, no doubt. I believe you," he said simply. Ginika broke down then, shoulders shaking as she covered her face. I finally found somewhere that feels like mine, she wept. And now they want to ruin it. Chuka put a hand on her back. They can't ruin what's already part of us. But it wasn't only about the case. News spreads fast, especially when money is involved. The next day, whispers started among the compound staff. Did you hear? I knew she was too quiet. Wahala deo. Even the school where Adaora and Ikene attended called. Until the case is resolved, we advise that Miss Ginika does not attend school functions, the head teacher said coldly. The children noticed the tension. Nena folded her arms during dinner. Why aren't people saying hello to Ginika anymore? Ikene threw his spoon. Who is trying to take her away? Ginika said nothing. She simply wiped Ikene's chin and whispered, I'm not going anywhere. But at night, in the dark, her hands shook as she packed a small bag, just in case. On Friday, something changed. A white SUV pulled into the compound. From it stepped a woman in high heels and a fiery red blouse. Barrister Uju Okenwa. She had once worked with Chuka on a land dispute case. She had also been the top of her class, and she was ruthless in court. I heard what's happening, she said. I've already read the file. Ginika blinked. How? Chuka called me. She turned to Ginika with a smile. We're going to end this before it begins. Ginika stared at Chuka. You believe in me that much? He didn't look away. Ginika, I would bet everything on you. That weekend, the children created something unexpected. A large cardboard sign, colored with crayons and glitter, placed at the center of the living room. It read, This house is for Ginika. Below it were their handprints, blue, red, and yellow. Ginika stood in front of the sign, tears in her eyes. They did it themselves, Chuka said softly. I didn't even ask. She touched one handprint gently. They don't need me to be perfect. They just need me to stay. That night, as rain tapped softly on the roof, Nena knocked on Ginika's door. Can I sleep here tonight? She whispered. Ginika smiled and pulled back the blanket. Always. And in the dark, with Nena beside her, she whispered to herself, I will fight for this home. Even if it means facing every ghost from my past. The hearing date arrived faster than anyone expected. For days, the Nwoko home had walked on eggshells. Even the compound dogs barked less. Ginika moved with her usual calm, but her hands betrayed her, trembling slightly when she thought no one was watching. But someone always was. Chuka noticed. Nena noticed. Even little Adora began drawing sad faces with frowns. Is Auntie Ginika in trouble? Ekene whispered one evening. No, Chuka replied, hugging them tightly. She's just in a fight, but she's not alone. On the day of the court appearance, Ginika wore a simple white blouse and a navy blue wrapper. No makeup, no jewelry, just strength, and a folded note from Nena tucked in her pocket. No matter what they say, you are good. Chuka drove her himself. He sat in the front row beside Barrister Uju, arms folded tightly across his chest. He wasn't there as her boss. He was there as her family. The courtroom was small but packed. Her uncle sat confidently, smirking. His lawyer tried to paint her as a manipulative orphan who stole family funds. But Ginika didn't flinch. When it was her turn, she stood up slowly, the courtroom so silent you could hear papers shift. I was 19, she said. I had just buried my father. My uncle promised to take care of me, but instead, he locked the house and sent me away. Gasps rippled through the room. I never touched any money. I survived by cleaning classrooms and sleeping on church benches. I never wanted trouble. I only wanted peace. Then she pulled out an envelope, a letter her father had written months before his death, leaving everything in the hands of the church, not his brother. Barrister Uju handed it to the judge. Case closed. Her uncle's face crumbled like wet paper. By the time they left the courthouse, reporters had already started sniffing. But Chuka stood in front of her, shielding her from every flashing camera. She is not the story, he told them. She is the truth. Back home, they found the compound decorated with balloons and a Welcome Home Auntie Ginika banner made by the children. Akini had worn a cape and called himself Justice Boy. Adaora refused to let go of her hand for 2 hours. Nena handed her a small clay figure, a tiny version of Ginika holding a child. You're the strongest person I know, she said quietly. Ginika knelt down, hugging them tightly. I came here to help you, but you all helped me too. That night, the house was full of jollof rice, music, and laughter. For the first time, even the gate man came in to dance with Adaora, who wore Chuka's oversized cap and pretended to be Madam of the House. But the most surprising moment came after the children went to bed. Chuka and Ginika sat on the veranda again, the stars blinking like distant promises. He handed her a small box. She blinked. What's this? Relax, it's not what you think, he smiled. Open it. Inside was a house key. Her own. No matter what happens, Chuka said softly, this will always be your home too. No contracts, no fear, just the truth. Ginika looked at him, tears shining in her eyes. I've never had a key to any house, she whispered. You have one now, he said, and not just to this building, but to all of us. For a long time, they said nothing, just sat there, close enough to feel the warmth, far enough to honor the space they'd built, until Chuka added gently, You're not alone anymore, Ginika, and she finally believed him. Rain came softly that Sunday morning, tapping on the windows like an old friend. The Nwoko house was unusually quiet. No spilled cereal, no crying over missing socks, not even Ekeni's usual, Where's my cape? Instead, the children tiptoed around the kitchen whispering, carefully mixing flour and cracking eggs into bowls far too big for their little hands. Nena, now the unofficial big sister of the house, directed everything like a mini general. It has to be perfect, she said, because today is special. It wasn't a birthday. It wasn't Christmas. It was Thank You, Ginika Day. They didn't tell her, of course. They just waited. Ginika came downstairs in her usual olive green wrapper, ready to sweep the living room, when she froze. There, on the center table, was a handmade card that read, To the woman who stayed. Underneath were dozens of crayon hearts and fingerprints. Then the children appeared, one by one, singing a funny off-key song. She makes us soup. She sings us songs. She stays when things go very wrong. She doesn't run. She doesn't yell. Auntie Ginika, you do well. Ginika covered her mouth with both hands, tears spilling before she could even blink. She tried to speak. You children? You planned all this? Ikini grinned. Nena's idea. I made the cake. It's not burnt. Adaora held up a beaded bracelet made from her toy set. I made this for your hand. Even quiet Leo from next door, who had recently started playing with Ikini, peeked in shyly and said, My mummy says she wants to learn how to be like you. Ginika pulled them all into a hug, laughing and crying at the same time. This house, she whispered, is my heart. Weeks passed, then months. And Ginika never left. She didn't have to. She belonged. She was the one who woke the children for school with gentle back rubs and soft singing. She was the one who told them bedtime stories about animals who found families in the most unexpected places. She was the one who helped Chuka pick out matching socks when he started going back to church. And one golden afternoon, something else bloomed quietly between her and Chuka. Not rushed, not loud, just slow, certain warmth. They would sit under the mango tree, talking about nothing. Sometimes they'd talk about the future. Other times, about the past. I don't know what I was waiting for, Chuka said once, watching Adora chase butterflies. You weren't waiting, Ginika replied, her eyes soft. You were healing. One morning, Nena came into the sitting room holding a photograph of her late mother. She was beautiful, Ginika whispered. She was, Nena said, and kind. But you're not here to replace her. You're just here. Ginika smiled and kissed her forehead. That's all I ever wanted. Then came the question. From Akina, of course. Are you going to marry Daddy or what? Everyone froze. Ginika choked on her water. Chuka stared at his son like he'd grown a second head. Akini shrugged. You already act like our mummy. You just don't wear the ring. Chuka blinked. Ginika laughed till her stomach hurt. Well, she said, trying to recover, we'll see. But that evening, after the children had fallen asleep, Chuka held her hand and whispered, Maybe we should see. They married quietly 6 months later. No big haul. No asoebi, just a garden, a few close friends, and 3 children in matching outfits. Adaora threw petals everywhere, even in Chuka's pocket. Nena read a short poem about finding love in unlikely places. Ekene cried and blamed dust. And when Ginika walked into the compound, hand in hand with the man who once lived in silence, the neighbors cheered. Not because she was a bride, but because she had always been family. Years later, when Ginika told the story to Sunny, the little girl she and Chuka had 2 years after the wedding, she said only one thing: I didn't come to fix them. I came to stay. And in a world where people leave so easily, that simple act became the foundation of everything. This is the end of this story. Thank you for watching this beautiful story of love, healing, and belonging. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs a little hope today. What part of Janika's journey moved you the most? Let's talk in the comments.